This is Real Sports Talk, Rumack and the Greek, featuring Billy the Greek and Stormin Norman Rumack, brought to you by the good people at Cosa and Carpets for Life.
Hey everybody, Stormin Norman Rumack, glad to be with you once again. And sorry that once again Billy George Sack is taking time off, obviously, and understandably so, with his mom passing away over a week ago. So we again send our condolences and sympathies to Billy George Sakis and his family, and we'll hope to have him back as soon as he's ready to go. But obviously, that's a tough loss, losing a mom or a dad or any immediate family member for anybody, no matter your age, no matter the circumstance. So our thoughts are certainly emotions with Billy George Sakis at a tough time for him and his family and close friends. Meantime, we continue on as Billy would like it to be. And joining us once again, along with our great producer, Jordan Laroche in Thailand. He's a genuine world traveler. It's the only podcast I know that can originate from North America, Toronto and Boston in this case, with Alex Campbell, our great guest once again, the encyclopedia himself. And Jordan is like, I'm curious to know, where else in the future might you be producing the show from? Any other exotic?
I mean, probably very likely Hong Kong in the near future, but
Okay.
No, I'm here in beautiful Hua Hin, Thailand.
Oh, I was going to say, you never know. You might get assigned to a Club Med. Maybe like
Maybe.
Well, could be worse. Anyways, hey, folks, glad you're tuning us in. And thanks again to our great sponsors from COSA, Standardbred Horse Racing Association of Ontario. Been very loyal to Billy and I. Have worked with them for a long time, going back to my days on the Fan 590. And, of course, Nicky, the king of carpets as well. So we're very blessed to have great sponsors like this with us. And we thank them again. And we'll have the COSA Classic around the half-hour mark. So we're just nicely into the show. All right, so we're going to mix it around. Sure, we want to talk about the NCAA Final Four. Alex has a lot of expertise in that and the NBA. And, of course, Jordan Laroche can hold his own along with Alex and I on the hockey front. So why don't we start on the hockey front? So, fellas, just in general, we heard after the World Baseball Classic, and a classic ending for sure, best on best, and Connor McDavid, appropriately so, talking about how he and his NHL players would like to have the same, because it's been a long time since they had it. I think there's an impression, there has been since the NHL resumed Olympic hockey, or when they started back 98 in Japan, that the idea was, hey, great hockey, and they had.
Sorry, guys.
Sounds like a little fire up there.
Yeah, sorry, technical difficulty. My bad.
Technical difficulties. My favorite expression from radio, technical difficulties. Anyway.
That's right. I'll try to keep it light.
Oh, no, it's all good. Okay, so anyway, when they started back in 98 in Japan, I think part of the idea or the wish was for the NHL owners that, well, if the hockey's good enough, and usually between Olympics, World Cups, it is pretty good because you do have best on best, so they could sell more tickets. But you know what? I think for most sports, okay, the Leafs would be Exhibit A. All right, so they can't sell any more tickets really at the Air Canada Centre, and I don't think anything that happens in a World Cup or Olympics would change that. And even in struggling markets, I mean, let's say it's Arizona, and let's say Team USA wins A, the Olympics, or B, a World Cup of hockey. That's not going to sell it either. No different than, a great ending in the World Cup of baseball. If the Blue Jays were a struggling, bottom feeder, or let's say, unfortunately, the Pittsburgh Pirates, you're going to have the best, and this certainly was as good an ending as you're ever going to get in the World Cup, the Baseball World Cup. It's like, that's not going to sell a single ticket for the Pirates. So the point I'm getting to is, from the owner's point of view, if they're letting player in baseball, obviously they decided the players are at risk, they could get injured. On the hockey front, I know, there's no compensation for the teams if the hockey players get hurt. So from an owner's point of view, fellas, I'll ask both of you. We'll start off with you, Jordan, then we'll get to you, Alex. Does it make sense that they would have serious concerns, A, financially, that they don't buy into that they're going to sell more tickets because the tournament is a classic? If their teams are good, they'll sell tickets. If their teams stink, no one else is coming, no matter how good the thing is. And then the concern about losing players, especially for playoff runs or for a whole season. So Jordan, you and then Alex, go right ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the World Cup of Hockey just a few years ago, I mean that was an electric event. I mean, the Team North America was one of the most fun teams to watch in hockey. I mean, even to this date. But I do get it from the owners. Just it's really tough to kind of see what they gain from it, and it really kind of scares me for the future of the World Cup of Hockey and that kind of thing. They have said they are going to go back to it, potentially replacing the All-Star game, which I think would be probably a better feat overall than the All-Star game. And they can turn that into the marketing event that the All-Star game is, because the All-Star game in recent years has just been a joke. So All-Star weekend in general, but I think the World Cup of Hockey is something that should be back. It's just a matter of time before if we actually see it.
Okay, Alex, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jordan in large part. I mean, like the World Cup of Hockey is a great comparison to the World Baseball Classic, too. You're talking about two sports who struggled in ratings over the last decade pretty severely. And so at the end of the day, what they really need to do is grow the games internationally, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. I mean, hockey obviously has, I would say, more of an international presence than baseball does, but and to me, like the two sports of hockey and baseball from a financial and business side have been so similar over the last, I mean, even call it 20, 30 years, where the bangs, the booms, the busts, and the big TV deals that have kept things going, the expiring of those TV deals with a bunch of nail biting from agents and an entire industry. Baseball is looking at a timeline right now where, they signed a giant cable TV deal that's been, really paying the industry for the last 10 years. It expires in a few years, and I don't think they really know what they're going to do after that. I wouldn't be surprised if they go down to a lesser network deal. And right now, the World Baseball Classic is drawing eyeballs. It's drawing ratings, and it did. And the same thing with World Hockey. I mean, it draws ratings, and that's things that both of those sports sorely need is more ratings and more commercial interest. And so I understand fully why the teams, the general managers, and the owners don't love those situations, because it's a high risk situation. You're playing against other pros in a game that doesn't really mean anything to your profession, to your everyday paycheck, to the franchise that you play for, and you could get severely injured, and it could risk losing a season. It could risk changing a career forever, maybe in a negative way. But at the same time, I think the sports themselves, both baseball and hockey, need those classic events more than the leagues understand, more than the owners understand.
Okay, so let me just extrapolate on this a little bit, and we'll go in reverse order. Alex, I'll come back to you, then we'll go to Jordan. So if the owner's argument is legit, setting aside the injuries, which is a huge concern for all the reasons you just articulated, Alex, but just if they don't really find that they sell any tickets after a great, Olympics, a great World Cup of Hockey, like I say, in Canadian markets, they don't need to sell it. It's already sold just by, you grow up or you move to Canada. That's just part of your culture, right? Or it becomes part of your culture pretty quickly. So you don't need an incentive. It's something you'll remember. You certainly enjoy watching it, of course, goes without saying. But on just the business, strictly the accounting, the dollars and the cents, if in fact it's the case that it doesn't really end up like no one's getting more season tickets or more, $10 10 game packs like a lot of teams sell in a lot of sports, right? If you're not really noticing an increase, if the owners are telling us the truth, and after or shortly after these great events take place. So from a business point of view, Alex, does it make sense for the risks you articulated? And then the fact that, these games are quite often played in February. That's where the NHL doesn't have to compete with Major League Baseball, Super Bowl, and it's just them and the NBA. So they can get more fannies in the seats, more eyeballs on the games, for their National Hockey League, for their bread and butter. So from an owner's point of view, and not to side with them, but Alex, is that a legit concern?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely. Because when you're an owner, I mean, it's just like being a business owner in any industry. It's a tough spot to be in, especially in North America right now, because all of your decisions, you look at Fortune 500 companies, most of their decisions are based on a very short-term income spectrum. This isn't the days of like Henry Ford and building a legacy that we're gonna build a program that essentially is gonna pay for itself. That our employees are gonna buy our product and it's gonna last 70 years just like this. No, I think it's all about like, what have you done for me lately? Next week, what's that gonna look like? And can we put more butts in the seats tomorrow? To me, the World Baseball Classic and the Hockey Classic, they're not about tomorrow. They're not about 24 hours from now, the end of this week. They're about 10 years, 15 years down the line. Because what fans can we get to those events, especially in the case of the World Baseball Classic? What fans can we get to view those events that wouldn't otherwise be fans? And that's the trick to growing the game. And even the mighty NFL, who's had nothing but financial success and nothing but commercial success, is doing the exact same thing. They're constantly trying to play games in other countries. They're playing a game every year in Europe. They've played games in Mexico City. They're constantly trying to grow their game too. So it's not even just those that are hanging on to TV deals like hockey and baseball. The owners are correct, but their viewpoint is also biased.
Okay, Jordan, what's your take on that in terms of selling tickets now, or you wish on a star that you can sell tickets 5 or 10 years from now because of a classic or an Olympics?
Yeah, I think the key thing Alex said there was, it's bringing in people that aren't typically fans of the sport. And I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, I couldn't care less about Major League Baseball or just baseball in general. But the World Baseball Classic really had me interested. I was following the guys. I learned more about Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout and those guys, and I didn't get to see much of the games, but just the fanfare and the buzz around it, just it resonated with the rest of the sport world. And you look at the NHL, it's sorely missing the World Cup of hockey. I mean, they had this multi-year deal with Bally Sports that's now going to be going under. Just because TV ratings are down in the U.S. and I'm not really sure how they fix that, but I think a World Cup of hockey is a step in the right direction. It's kind of getting, just American ratings back up to where they were.
Okay. I think, Alex, fans, already established fans in Canada, United States for hockey, or, even some who watch overseas, I think they view it more, not so much, they don't have to sell them again, just like you don't have to sell anybody in Toronto or Boston or, pick any city on the end. But it's more, hey, let's reward our fans by giving them something that they'll all hopefully always remember because of their affiliations, A, with their club players, and then B, with their national players. You're torn in between the two, but that's okay. That's what makes it work emotionally. Do you think it should be, the NHL should look at, hey, let's reward our fans every 4 or 6 years with another, whether it's Olympics or World Cup, as a thank you to them, that, we'll risk our players and it may hurt us, but at least our fans are going to see some great hockey, and maybe they'll, I don't know. Does that make any sense from an owner's point of view?
Yeah, I think there is some merit to that. And the other part, too, that I guess I didn't mention that hasn't been mentioned is that, fans that are already, fans of these games of hockey and in baseball, you actually, on these international teams, you get to see some of the stars that are in the farm systems play against the professionals that you see every day, too, which kind of gives you a look in a window into the future. So it's another treat for it's really a treat for those guys that are fans. And like you said, Jordan, you were drawn to the World Baseball Classic. You learn so much about, like, Shohei Ohtani, by the way, what an incredible player. Baseball right now should be putting him on the cover of every single article they do. You're talking about somebody, in my opinion, who's already better than Babe Ruth ever dreamed of being, which is not talked about enough. He's a better pitcher for longer than Babe ever was. He's on track to be just as good of a hitter, which is insane. Nobody's ever, this is akin, what Ohtani's doing should be celebrated the world around, given the popularity of baseball. You know what I mean? And so that really deserves a seat. And to do it in his own home country was just, with the dramatics and fire, was just sensational. That was beautiful and a great thing for baseball, whether in short term the owners can realize it or not. So I'm sorry if I stole any time from you, Jordan. Go ahead.
All good. No, I'm very much on the same wavelength. I can't really say much more than what Alex said, but no, hockey is sorely missing something like this, and the big thing with hockey right now is you need to get more people watching the game, more people just interested in hockey, and just seeing how great of a marketing tool the World Baseball Classic is, it's really sad to see the NHL. They have plans to do it, but it's really sad that they got rid of it for as long as they have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we continue on. I'm Stormin Rumack. Billy Georgiatsakis is off mourning the loss of his mother. And God willing, we'll look forward to having Billy back next week or whenever he's ready to go or feels ready to go. So, again, we send our sympathies and our condolences to Billy and his family over the loss of his mom. All right, one further question about this, world hockey situation. So with all the points, you guys have made, it's like, there is a, for strictly a business point of view, there is a good and a bad to it. But I'm kind of wondering there's the elephant in the room. It's way worse. That's an easy way to put it. But the horrific Russian invasion of Ukraine and that tragic war started by Putin continues. So the NHL, if they have their way, they would not have a Team Russia. But here's the thing. There's, quite a few and very good at that, Russian-born and raised hockey players led by Alex Ovechkin in the NHL. And and now you guys will tell me if I'm wrong, the NHLPA has to represent all their players. If there's an exclusion of Russian players for something they have no control over, and obviously nobody in Russia, whether you're a high-profile celebrity or not, has any say with Putin. He can give a rat's tail about what his celebrities, and quite frankly, if they speak up against him, I don't think it'd be a big surprise if they or their families are at risk. And then a whole other situation of much less importance, much less importance is, would the Russian government led by Putin, stop allowing Russian hockey players to even play in the NHL? I mean, there's several potential consequences. So if the NHL gave its blessings to Olympics, and I don't think they have much say in the Olympics would make up their own mind about which countries allowed or not allowed, boycotted or not. That goes beyond the NHL. But in a World Cup of Hockey, that would strictly be an NHL and maybe the International Ice Hockey Federation decision. So how do you what would you guys suggest would be done? Would you have Russia just playing under some other name as they did, I think, at the Olympics the last time around, where they went with just a different name? So you're kind of, they should, in my opinion, they should be allowed to play. Nobody sets foreign policy for Russia other than Putin. And I'm sure a lot of them are disgusted privately. They can't say so publicly, maybe because they're at risk. So what do you guys think if they were to go to a World Cup of Hockey? How do you handle the Russia situation, which is a delicate?
Yeah, I think you go back to what the Olympics did. I mean, the Olympic athletes from Russia kind of deal. I mean, it's just not a great situation for anyone involved, really. And we're seeing some of that with the NHL today. I mean, with the current the pride jerseys and warm-ups and Russian players. The Chicago Blackhawks canceled it because they have 3 Russian-born players that didn't feel they were comfortable wearing the jersey, and it's a really fine line. But at the end of the day, those players deserve to be there. They need to be there, and you don't want to really kind of promote Russia right now. So they do some kind of like athlete thing, like what they did with the Olympics.
Okay, Alex, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. If they do something where they don't recognize like the actual country itself, but they recognize the athletes, I think that would be great. And like you said, Norm, like you can't take Russia out of hockey. And to me, trying to would be too complicated, too weird, and would damage the entertainment product itself, anyways. Like you just can't. I mean, for instance, I was born and raised in Michigan. I'm a pretty big Red Wings fan, and like I'm a '90s kid. So, when I watched the Red Wings growing up, that was the heyday of the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, we had an entire line. We called it the Russian Five. Like we had an entire line of that came out that was all Russian, led by Fedorov, that had Igor Larionov in it. I mean, like Konstantinov was on that line. Like that. Like Russia means so much to hockey that has nothing to do with international politics. Nothing. That to me, they cannot be wiped out of the situation, and it has to be handled delicately, but in a way that just like both of you have espoused.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just give you before we veer off from this topic. when Russia started the invasion, tragically, of Ukraine, the illegal invasion last February. So the European Union and the Americans and a lot of other countries said, "Oh well, we'll get to Putin. We'll change. Well, we're going to sanction the oligarchs," which included some owners, including the team I follow, Chelsea. And it's like it's clear to me, more than a year later, that sanctioning the oligarchs, and it's a whole other discussion. How did they get their money? And then that's separate. I don't know. There's all kinds of allegations how they got their money. But yeah, sanctioning the oligarchs who are regarded as Putin's buddies, but in fact, they have no say in Russian foreign policy. Like I say, from what I understand, nobody dares tell Putin what to do. It's like that was a miserable failure. It didn't change one horrific thing about that Russian invasion of the Ukraine, sanctioning the oligarchs. It was a miserable failure. It was just a complete failure. And by the way, they never mentioned, wonder how much the UK government has spent on Russian natural resources like oil and gas the last 25 years. I wonder if it's up in the hundreds of millions or $1 billion. Gee, I wonder what funded that Russian war effort in Ukraine. But no, that never gets mentioned. Of course not.
Well, yeah, and I think so much. I mean, and not to get outwardly political or anything, but I couldn't agree with you more. I've said since the beginning, I'm a former U.S. Air Force veteran. I was an intelligence analyst in the Air Force for 4 years. I mean, I've been to Iraq. I was stationed in Qatar for some time. So I mean, like I've seen the fight. And look. We certainly, I've never been a fan of the Super Hawks in Washington except for right now. Let me just say that. And I'm wondering like where they are, because to me, if John McCain were still president in Washington, D.C., we'd be doing more than sanctions. Let me just, I don't want to, declare war on Russia for my car. So, but other than that, we'd be doing more than declaring sanctions. If George W. Bush was in office, we'd be doing more than declaring sanctions. And again, I'm not trying to get political, but that's just the reality of it. We'd be doing more than declaring sanctions. We have the U.S. has the strongest military in the world. It is not even close. We've never flexed our muscle to full strength, and that situation doesn't need to exist as it stands. It just doesn't. And the reality is, we're just not dealing with it in a way that I condone. I don't think ultimately I don't think that any of that ends until Putin is dead. I mean, that's the reality of it. I don't think that war ends. I don't think the effort to reunite the USSR on his front ends. That is a dying wish by that man, and he's going to do everything he can in his power, and he has a lot of power to do it. And I don't think it ends until he dies. I just don't. And the sooner that can happen, the sooner we can end this.
Yeah, well, I'll just also say I don't think the Brits want to get too tough on Mr. Putin because they need his gas and oil. No, I'm just saying. Anyway, we'll get off of that. It's unfortunate we even have to talk about it. It's a horrific situation for Ukraine. And I think we saw at the start of the war, most Russian citizens they demonstrated until Putin clamped down on them. So most of them were horrified by what's happened to their neighbor. They can't say so. All right, so. Okay, so let's move on that. I don't know. I'll get to specifics. So, let's talk about for a lot of our viewers, the Maple Leafs. You can handpick or cherry pick any particular game, but to me, and I used to sometimes I would drive Billy crazy because I would focus on like when they would blow leads last year, even though on the whole they had a pretty good regular season, but they would have these games every now and then where they lose focus, lose attention, whatever. And then I'm seeing some games again, and like people have the right to criticize me. They think I'm cherry picking too much. But the game with Carolina, they rally back to tie it, and then 30 seconds later, Carolina goes ahead. And then the game with the Islanders, which was from a Leaf point of view, a complete joke. To me, what I'm picking out, what I'm seeing is. If I'm a Leaf fan, I'm concerned about the defensive play overall and certainly the goalkeeping. And I know people say, yeah, but Colorado. So, yeah, but Colorado. Yeah, but Colorado. So in other words, as if you don't need any goalkeeping. Never mind Colorado. The Leafs don't even have that level, as far as I'm concerned, of goalkeeping between, and not to diss them, personally, I'm not. I'm just saying from what I've observed, between Samsonov and Murray. If I'm a Leaf fan, I'm concerned about playoff time where you're playing the best and you got to have your best in net and on defense. So Alex will start. Am I right or am I going overboard, Alex?
Oh no, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And to identify Carolina as kind of the linchpin there is perfect. Like I live in Boston and I listen to Boston Sports Talk Radio. The Bruins are easily the best team in hockey right now, I think. And I mean they are completely humming. They've had a dream season. They have two goalies that are just sensational. I mean, they could start either one of them and they'd be the best goaltenders, almost in the NHL. They certainly have the best. They have the two best. They have the best two goalie system there, and they also have plenty of defense, plenty of scoring. They got Marchand, Bergeron, and Allmark. I mean, they're just so loaded. But you know what? You know what they're concerned about? Carolina. I mean, that is the number one team that they think like could cause them issues in a series. And no, I think you nailed it right on the head. If I were the Maple Leafs, I'd be even more concerned than the Bruins are about that.
Okay. And let me, Jordan, specifically, we know the Leafs are going to tangle with Tampa and starting to look like the Lightning after all these years of long playoff runs. Maybe they are running out of gas. Maybe the Leafs on that factor primarily could get by the first round. But beyond the first round, Jordan, to you, when you look at some of the points I've talked about, and you've observed a lot of games and a lot of highs and lows for Toronto. Am I correct in what I'm pointing out? But there should be, and I think there's got to be legit concern about their goalkeeping overall in terms of playoff level performance and defensively overall. Am I right or am I wrong, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, the last few games that they've been rolling with Joseph Wola, I'm not sure what the exact situation is with Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. I know that they've been in and out of the lineup over the last little bit, but at the end of the day, Toronto's been changing goaltenders. I mean, just rolling through them over the last little bit. Jack Campbell last year, Freddie Anderson the year before, and going into this playoff series, I like Samsonov. I really do. I thought he had a lot to gain coming into this year with Toronto, and the fact that his game has really kind of faltered recently really scares me for Toronto right now. I thought he was going to be the guy. I mean, it's a win-win situation for the Leafs and Ilya Samsonov. He gets to really make a name for himself again on a team-friendly deal. And you look at Matt Murray, who's sitting there eating up $3-4 million of cap. It's just a really tough situation to be in. And going up against Tampa Bay in the first round, I was looking at the Tampa Bay and Boston game the other day, and they had that line brawl, and I'm looking at the Leafs lineup. Who's standing up in that fight? I mean, you have Luke Shen, who's barely been in the lineup. I see a lot of issues with the Leafs going into the first round, and I really don't see them making it out. And the goaltending is one issue, but they have a plethora of other issues, I think, that's going to really handcuff them against Tampa Bay.
All right, we're going to talk further about hockey and get into the Final Four, the NCAA tournament, the NBA as well, as we're halfway through our hour. So we want to get to the COSA Classic and get a little love to the Ontario Standardbred Horse Racing Association and also our good friend, the King of Carpets, Nikki, back with a lot more, including hockey, basketball, college basketball, NBA basketball, right to the top of the clock right here. So stand by. We're right back with you after we pay some respects and earn some more love from our great sponsors.
Sorry, I just need a minute on this. It's a little tough doing this while co-hosting as well.
Oh, sorry. That's okay.
All right, take your time.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, we're going to present you with the COSA Classic, and then we'll be back with more. Of course, just because we're a little bit shorthanded this week, so I don't know which COSA Classic, but it's called Classic for a reason. So Jordan's quite familiar, and here we go with the COSA Classic, and then we'll hear from our friend Nikki, the King of Carpets.
And they're off and trotting, and Pearsall Hanover gets the first call from the inside. That's CR Commando showing early trot. From the outside comes Angus Hall as they round the first turn. So it's McNichol and Pearsall Hanover as Campbell uses Angus Hall's tactical speed now, and Self-Possessed is right there, keeping him 3 wide. They battle early as they race to the opening quarter. Off stride goes CR Commando. Around him goes CR Renegade, his stable entry, as they race around the turn. Then going up on the outside comes Enjoy Levesque. That one moving around with Rafael Ambrosio near the back of the pack. That one followed by Comet's Tail, and then moving up is Devante as they pass the quarter, and they move around the breaking CR Commando. The first quarter was pretty fast, 27-2. They race down the backstretch now, and Mike LaChance with Self-Possessed will take the lead away from Angus Hall. But right there is CR Renegade. He'll apply immediate pressure as they race past the half. And Enjoy Levesque is getting a great trip on the outside. Pearsall Hanover shuffled back a bit, now in fifth, as they race past the half in 55-3, and they're going at it now, stride for stride here in the Hamiltonian. Self-Possessed digging in with Mike LaChance, and CR Renegade and Rod Allen take it to them. And Angus Hall enjoying a beautiful trip with John Campbell. He has trot on the inside, and now he gets the second spot. 3 wide comes Enjoy Levesque. He looks to rally into it. Right behind him is Raffaello Ambrosio. Pearsall Hanover is full out. It's Self-Possessed. 1:23-3, and they turn for home in the Hamiltonian. And Self-Possessed starts to turn it on. Self-Possessed, though, is drifting out. Angus Hall trying to take advantage. Self-Possessed, Mike LaChance keeping him to his task. He's all alone now, and he's home free. Angus Hall will be second. Enjoy Levesque is going to rally, but it's going to be Self-Possessed. Valley Victory Legacy lives on. LaChance and Gerpine get their third Hamiltonian with Self-Possessed. 1:51-3.
By now,
that is a
know
track.
the name COSA TV, an industry leader producing unique, high-quality digital content promoting harness racing in Ontario. Features, virtual programming, live events, and more. COSA TV has it covered. Follow our social media channels and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to view the latest content. And if you're looking to bet your favorite Ontario track, check out hpibet.com. COSA TV, taking Ontario racing global.
Welcome to Carpets for Life. For over 30 years, we have been servicing both residential and commercial clients in the sales and installation of custom stair runners on wall-to-wall areas. Our team prides itself in honesty with a regard of professionalism and customer satisfaction. Our many testimonials and continuous referrals is a testament of the quality of workmanship we provide. We strive to ensure a happy customer is a Carpets for Life customer.
Okay, thanks again to, of course, COSA, Standardbred Horse Racing Association of Ontario, their longtime loyalty. I've worked with them, as I mentioned, the Fan 590 for many years. They had a Stormin Norman night. Actually, it was a Hammerhead Alert night. Anyway, it was both. It was great. And especially, if I may say so, the roast beef. And they used to give me the lobster that was the size of a baby shark. It was actually bigger than a baby shark. So anyway, yeah, it was. I'm telling you. The horse racing is one thing. I mean, it's the entertainment part, but the food, I'm telling you, it's as good as any five-star restaurant. I was at Woodbine, and I'm sure it's still the same now. And anyways, Nikki, the king of carpets, big Habs fan. Well, Nikki, the good news is they got a great coach. They got some great youngsters. No, you know, I guess it's bad news. They won't be in the playoffs again, but at least they.
Well, they have a shot at Bedard.
What's that? Yeah,
They have a shot at Bedard.
yeah. As long as the lottery balls don't get messed up, you know. But we'll see what happens there. All right, so Jordan, I know you're not a hoops fan, but listen, you even a casual fan will have a strong opinion about sports, whether it's college level or NBA. So, Alex, I know this stuff is, every sport's right up your alley. So this one for sure. So this year's Final Four, we were talking about this a week ago about some of the big upset. I mean, it's got to the point where I don't know if there's even such a thing as an upset because now good basketball players will go to the smallest schools, ones you've never heard of. I mean, Exhibit A would be Steph Curry. Not that no one ever heard of Davidson, but it's like, is he a pretty good three-point shooter? Did he go to a top 8, top 4, NBA factory? I don't think so. But anyway, so has this one, or am I putting too much attention on it, Alex? Has this one given hope to every small school across America? Hey, if we get guys with talent who want to work hard and a coach who can innovate a little bit against some of the big boys, so to speak, you know what? Now we all have hope that we can do this. Has the tournament been changed forever because of what we saw this year?
I think it's been changed forever because of what we've seen over the last 10 years, maybe 15. I mean, you go all the way back to
Syracuse, Richmond, please don't pick on me.
Yeah, Syracuse, Richmond. There you go. You know, I mean, you can go back to like, you know, when you first saw Gonzaga start to come around and the success that they've had. I think it's been true for a long time. You know what I think it really started was with the one and done era. And I know this is a pretty popular opinion, but once the NBA changed to like, hey, you got to be in college for a year, and the one and done started at the big schools, Duke and Kentucky, North Carolina, schools like that, the blue chip schools, it created a situation where you've got these kids who are 18, 19 years old playing against 22-year-olds in the tournament. And there's a big difference between an 18-year-old and 22-year-old. And even if the 18-year-old's more talented than the 22-year-old, well, the 22-year-old's been playing with these guys for a few years, and he's also 22, and the other guy's 18. So, you know what I mean? There's an advantage there. And so I think we've seen that play out. NIL has pushed that even further, I believe, because why in the world would I want to go sit, you know, on a bench for 2 years while I wait to get my chance when I can go play at Florida Atlantic and start tomorrow? You know what I mean? And make it to the tournament, make a splash in the tournament. And the other side here is, too, is that this to me, I think the NCAA has done the best out of any professional or collegiate sport with parity. They just absolutely nailed it with this giant field of a tournament where everybody gets a one game you know, chance at it. And it, basically, if you're not even Power 5, but you're from any of the also ran conferences, if you win your conference, you're in. And it's amazing to me. All I hear constantly so far in this Final Four is we're shocked that we have these four. We're shocked. I'm not shocked. I'm surprised. I'm not shocked. San Diego State's a team that was a top 10 team 3 years ago when COVID happened and shut the tournament down. Steve Fisher's had that program going in the right direction for a long time. And then the guy that took it over, Ben, I'm going to forget his name, Ben, I think it's Hatcher now. He's just as good. He was an assistant for Fisher forever since his days back at Michigan in the 80s. And so I'm not shocked that SDSU is there at all. They're as deep and as defensive as any team in the tournament. I'm not shocked at all that Florida Atlantic is there. Florida Atlantic only lost 3 games this year. They went 31-3. They had the best record in the country of any D1 school. I mean, so Florida Atlantic doesn't shock me being, and they also have a 7-2 center named Golden who's phenomenal. You know what I mean? Now, that said, the 4 that remain, like, so the TV networks have to be sorely disappointed that they don't have a bunch of blue chips and a bunch of chalk in the tournament. They don't have a North Carolina-Kansas matchup to talk about. I'm sure that's disappointing. They don't have Syracuse in the game. At the end of the day, though, yeah, I do think that the shift over the last 10 years has given confidence to a lot of these small schools, though.
Okay, just before I go over to Jordan. So, Alex, as you mentioned, if the networks, CBS and, excuse me, I forget all the other affiliations, there's quite a few of them, and of course TSN carries in Canada, fair enough. But is it really, like I'm just saying myself, is, you know, like, okay, Monday nights I have off. If I don't have something else on, you know what, I actually might be more in, like, okay, before when Syracuse was in the tournament and they got knocked out at whatever stage, I wasn't really, maybe I'll watch the championship game, maybe I won't. It's kind of like Leaf fans. Oh, Leafs are in the playoffs. Oh, maybe I'll tune in a couple of games of the Cup final, but in between, no, probably not. Okay, but so for the NCAA, I think, could it not be actually a bonus that maybe the final, maybe the championship game is, you know, a lot of fans saying, who? What? Who are they? I never even seen them play. I mean, could that be actually a tune-in fact? It's like, I got to see. I can't believe this is the matchup. I got to watch it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, yeah. I mean, these kids in this tournament, they become short-term household names too, and that's something too. Another reality about college basketball, in my opinion, and I think it's true about the NBA too, and the good leaders recognize this, is that, like, look, nobody watches the regular season. This is the only time they watch. That's the reality of it. Nobody knows who any of these guys are. Not really. Not unless you're a diehard fan of, like, Kentucky or Duke or North Carolina or, like, Michigan State. Not unless you're, like, a diehard fan do you really know who these players are. You don't. I mean, so. And here's the other thing too. It's sports betting in America that has changed. It's changed everything. People have been wagering on on March Madness since the tournament expanded. I mean, in large part, in offices and in schools and you know, all kinds of organizations have had these pools and wagers. And now it's been opened up to these giant online betting systems, these giant sports books online. And people are going crazy over it. If you go into any major sports book and you talk to the sharps, or you talk to the guys that run it, here's what they're going to tell you. The two sports that people bet on in major ways are NFL regular season and playoff games, just NFL games in general, and college basketball in March. they bet on college football, they bet on hockey, they bet on baseball, but they really bet on March Madness, and they really bet on the NFL. And so, you know, all these online sportsbooks have just opened this up and turned it into this extremely, you know, you don't really care too much about Florida Atlantic until you have a couple $100 riding on a game they're in, and all of a sudden you're glued to your seat and you know every player. And so it makes it so much more entertaining, I think, for so many fans to be financially invested in the tournament, and that's what draws the eyeballs. That said, I mean, do you guys think that they're going to maintain a similar rating to what they had last year when they had North Carolina, Kansas in the Final Four? I don't know. That remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to doubt it because obviously with the alumni followings of any, if I can say, traditional powerhouses of college basketball, it's just like, Jordan, we will get you in a minute, but I don't know if there's a parallel here, Alex, but if there is, you could make it. If, let's say, the Final Four of college football 1 year or a couple of years started to radically change, and then, you know, maybe you had some small schools. I don't mean, you know, okay, an Ivy League school, they have zillions of followers all over the planet, right? Because they draw students. So if Harvard or Yale or Princeton or even my nephew Darren's alma mater, Cornell, were in the college football Final Four, actually, I'd say the ratings would explode. It's like, oh my God, my school! Like, I don't even go to their game. I don't even watch it. But there now, every alumnus from here to the end of Mars is going to watch it. So that might actually work for college football if there was a surprise or a much different Final Four, because college football, am I right, has that kind of impact. Sure, it helps if you have Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, LSU, you know, go right down the list, or Miami or Clemson, whatever. But could college football maybe get a bonus audience by having 4 either unknowns or 4 massive shockers get to their Final Four?
Well, I think they could, and I think that's part of the reason they're going to a 12-game playoff. I mean, instead of 4. I mean, that's definitely part of the reason. You look at the 12 teams this year. I'm not going to pull up the rankings. I can't remember, but I believe that you had several non-Power 5 conference teams in that top 12. I think you had several. And the year prior, you had Cincinnati in the actual top 4. I mean, like, so you have several Conference USA, Mountain West Conference type teams, you know what I mean, that are MAC teams that are going to be in this 12 going forward over the next, you know, 10, 20 years or so. And to me, that's going to be really interesting, especially like what I said earlier with the NIL stuff. And let's say I'm a 5-star recruit and my choices are wide open. I can go to Ohio State, I can go to Alabama, I can go to Michigan. Well, but if I go to any of those 3, I'm going to sit behind the 2 other running backs in the room for a year and a half, maybe 2-3 years. If I go to Memphis or I go to, you know, you name it, I can start Marshall, I can start tomorrow. And I can make an impact. I can sell my jerseys. I can you know, advertise for the local, you know, car dealership, and I can make a little coin and get my name out there. And you know, with all the games, you know, you go back far enough. And Jordan, I don't know how old you are. Norm, I know you're a little older than I am, but I think I'm older than you guys think I am. I remember a time, you know, growing up when I was still in the era of national television. You only saw so many games every Saturday. You certainly didn't see all of them. You know, you had to stay up real late and have a satellite to watch the West Coast games. You know what I mean? And that kind of thing. Anymore, you can watch any game you want if it's on. I mean, you just got to pay a subscription to the right service and you can watch it. You can watch James Madison take on, you know, Harvard football. You can. And so because of that, and NIL, I think that's really going to open things up. And I really think this is the end of, we're going to watch the end of like the SEC dominant era in college football in the next few years because of the NIL. Because again, if I'm a 5-star recruit, why in the world would I want to go sit for 2 years behind 3 other 5-star recruits? I don't want to do that. I want to start right now. And then you know what I want to do? I want to get a non-conference game against Alabama and beat their head in and show them why I should have been starting the whole time.
That's Alex Campbell, the encyclopedia of sports knowledge. And Jordan Laroche, our esteemed producer, can produce a show from anywhere. Jordan, I'm hoping that, you know, God willing, I won't be on the planet anymore, but you never know. Maybe we can do interplanetary sports podcast.
Hey,
talk about Elon.
Maybe one of those SUVs on Mars could carry the show. I don't know who'd watch it out there, but you never know. there might be some extraterrestrials, like from the Spielberg film. But anyway, on a serious note, Jordan, so I know you're not, hoops isn't really your thing, but the kind of thing we're talking about where you get, like a Cinderella show in the Final Four of basketball, or maybe even college football. I know you're obviously a huge NFL fan, right? You know your stuff, but in a sport you don't go to your way to watch. If it's like a Cinderella showing, and it's like, oh, look who made it. This is going to be fun to watch. It's like a bunch of kids. Maybe it's their last chance at glory before they go into whatever careers they're going to, maybe even pro NBA. But even if not, is this the sort of thing that could incline you to watch if it's like, okay, your favorite hockey and football teams aren't playing?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at I'll compare it to the NHL here. I mean, Montreal Canadiens were in the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago. That was a team that had no right to be there. The roster that was old and beat up, and really on the back of Carey Price. And I actually went to Montreal during that time. It was the height of COVID, and there was just a buzz in the city. I would imagine you have the same thing at a lot of these college campuses, and I do think having some of these lesser known schools or smaller schools really getting that deep run, it sparks curiosity in people, and it creates storylines, and the journalists are more involved. You see more of the headlines on Twitter and that kind of thing. So I do think it's great, but at the same time, having those big name schools, it's reliable, it's safe. You're going to have the viewership just because of who they are, the players they have. TCU made it pretty deep in the college football playoff this year, right? And I know Max Duggan, but I can't really name many other players there. And I felt a bit of a disconnect to TCU this year, which can be kind of an issue that with some of these smaller schools as well.
Okay. I go ahead, Alex. I was going to say, that's an interesting point I hadn't thought of from Jordan in terms of a disconnect. To me, it would be, because as a Syracuse guy, obviously I'm bitter, and we'll see what happens with the coaching change. But with some of our regular rivals, Carolina, Duke, or some of our former buddies from the Big East, it's like, no, I'm not going to watch it. I don't want to see them win or whatever. But if it's, Cinderella, it's like, we never had much of a rivalry there, or we played them once or twice. And it's like, you know what? This could be fun because nobody was favored is in there. It's like, yeah, let the kids from the smaller school have their day in the sun and enjoy the glory, something they'll remember the rest of their lives. To me, it would be a tune-in factor.
Yeah, and I think to be honest, I really think it will be. If I were going to hedge a bet on would the ratings be higher or lower than last year, I'd say probably higher. I mean, I really would. I mean, the few times that a Cinderella story's made it to the Final Four of the last 10 years, the ratings have been sky high in those games. The VCU made it. I mean, the George Mason made it. All these deep runs. Even though that Princeton game where they made it to Sweet 16 had super high ratings. You know what I mean? So people tune in. They want to watch these. And like I said earlier, especially these college. But look, all year in college basketball, you listen to the national pundits. All we've heard is, and if you look at the rankings, nobody can hold on to a number one spot. Nobody can hold it down. Why? Because the parity's been there all year long. It hasn't really changed. And so all year we've been told that, there's not really anybody who's going to run away with this. And here we are. Nobody ran away with it. So I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not all that shocked. Like that said, I do think it will help increase viewership. If you want me to give any kind of prognostication on the games, though, like UConn has absolutely rolled everyone they've played. They just beat Gonzaga by like 25 points. Like Gonzaga is a tough out, and it's not a team you can beat by double digits normally. UConn, I would be shocked if UConn doesn't win the whole thing. I really would.
Well, it's interesting because when their legendary coach retired, was it already 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, it's somewhere in that ballpark. Usually when you go through a coaching change, it's kind of like a rebuild too. But to their credit, and they've been from the Big East as a Syracuse alum, they're one of our most hated rivals, and they hated us equally so and appropriately so. It's part of the fun, right? But you kind of wonder when you lose a legacy coach, just like at Duke, who the hell's going to replace Coach K? That's no shot at anybody who's taken over or will take over. I'm just saying, it's like. Those are massive shoes to fill, and yet credit to UConn Huskies, they've done it
twice.
Yeah,
twice. I mean, Kevin Ali won a national title after I'm forgetting his name. Why am I forgetting? Calhoun, right?
Yeah.
After Calhoun, Ali won a national title, and now you've got Hurley, Dan Hurley, who is. I love these athletic families. I love these professional athlete families, and to watch them develop. You know what I mean, over time. Like, I love to watch the Mannings. I love the Hurleys. The Hurleys are great. You watch a Hurley coach interact with a ref. It's like some of the best TV you've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, they're just phenomenal. Bobby Hurley. I mean, it's amazing is Bobby Hurley was so much of a better college basketball player. Danny Hurley is so much a better college basketball coach, in my opinion. And and I think both are credit to their father. And so that's phenomenal. And he's got UConn moving in the right direction. And that's, you're exactly right though, Norm. That is sensational. And what does Syracuse do after Boeheim? That is a mystery onto a mystery onto a mystery. I have no idea. Syracuse and UConn can draw a lot of similarities though. People here from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts like to say that Connecticut is not really part of New England. It's actually part of New York. When they talk about the tri-state area, they include Connecticut. When they talk about New England, they normally don't. You know what I mean? So in many ways, Connecticut is kindred spirits with Syracuse. Both teams have won probably more in March than was expected, especially since 2000. I think Syracuse has 2, maybe 3 titles since 2000, and I know UConn has 4. Actually, nobody has won more titles since 2000 than UConn, which is a surprising statistic, knowing that they've gone on kind of a roller coaster up and down. But it's true. So that, to me, that they're being overlooked right now. UConn has to be like the solid favorite that's left, just based on a talent on the roster, position versus these other schools. They've got the size and the depth and the talent to blow the doors off these other schools right now. And they're in the perfect spot. Even though I'm not a UConn fan, I'd be shocked if they didn't win.
Okay, well, let's talk a little NBA. So let me, I mentioned briefly Steph Curry going to a small school, and he just wasn't offered scholarships. It was like, I'm sure all those, I wonder if he ever called, he would, but I'm just saying, it'd be fun to look at the list of schools that rejected him for scholarships. It's like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is. But anyway, speaking of Golden State, so oddly enough, their road record is horrific. They've got, I think, 9 road wins, and it's a big but. I got to ask you, Alex, does that mean diddly squat? Does that mean a bloody thing at all if you're playing Golden State and it's playoff time? I would hazard to guess it don't mean jack. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're exactly right. I'll tell you what, there are 2 teams in the West that may not be a top 4 seed that you do not want to play if you're a Western team. 2 teams right now. If the Lakers get in that play-in game and LeBron gets right before the playoffs, you don't want to play the Lakers. And you do not want to play Steph Curry and the Warriors. You just don't. Wiggins or not, you just don't. Because they can still go on these runs where they can outscore you 21-3 for 15 minutes. They just can. And they can still do it. And the reason, if you pull back the curtain a little bit, the reason their road record is so much worse is because they have an aging roster, and these guys sit in a lot of the road games. When they take a game off, it's going to be a game at Memphis. It's going to be a game at Boston. It's going to be a game at LA. It's not going to be a home game at the Oracle where their fans, their season ticket holders pay good money for that entertainment package. Curry's going to play in that game if he can. Where he's not going to play is on the road against a sub 500 club. You know what I mean? If he needs the night off. And that's another thing, too, that I think the NBA is dealing with right now kind of behind the scenes, is that a lot of reporting has come out. There's actual statistical information now on wear and tear on an NBA body and how much the 82-game season is actually hurting these guys and hurting the entertainment product. And I think that's going to be deeply looked at. I wouldn't be shocked if the season gets shortened a little bit in the next few years because of it. And then you're going to see teams like Golden State that are a little older with better records, I think. But yeah, there are 2 teams in the West that I think nobody wants to play right now. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Golden State makes it back to the final. I really wouldn't. Curry is the most unique individual I've ever seen play the game at a professional level. He's changed the game more than Michael Jordan ever changed the game, more than Shaquille O'Neal ever changed the game. He's one of the greatest NBA players of all time. He's not the greatest of all time because he can't defend on a level that some of the greatest of all time did, but he is one of the greatest NBA players of all time. and he's arguably the most influential NBA player of all time. He has flipped the game on its head. He's turned it into a completely different game than we saw 10, 15 years ago. I would, and Klay Thompson looks like he's finally getting right and turning into that spot up shooter that can dribble 11 times and score 40 points in a game. You know what I mean? Like, he's getting back there too. Jordan Poole's starting to come around a little bit, and Draymond it seems like he saves it for the best moments and the best and the best matchups. He's not playing at that Draymond level all the time, but when he goes up against DeAndre Ayton or somebody like that, he turns it on and he turns into old Draymond, and that's exciting to watch. So yeah, I don't think anybody wants to play the Warriors.
Okay, so in terms of current and future drafting, how do you see the dynastic, and we call it dynastic, like Coach Kerr led Golden State Warriors? What kind of players are rival GMs, coaches going to be looking to draft? Because every pro sport is copycat. Oh, it's working for them. Geez, why didn't we think of it? So tell us, what kind of players other GMs are going to change their, like, how are they going to, if they are changing their draft strategy in terms of what they're looking, give us a description of what they're looking for now.
Oh, I think the hottest thing you can get in the NBA right now is a perimeter player that can shoot threes and play perimeter defense. You know what I mean? It's a guard or a forward that plays lockdown perimeter defense and shoots the three at a high level. You know what I mean? Preferably somebody who's 6'5", 6'6", or above, that can play small forward and the two guard both, and be a 3-and-D guy. That's pretty much your prototypical. Where if you go back to, let's say, like the early 2000s, the 90s, it was somebody who could play isolation and blow by in a defender on the court. You know what I mean? So I think that's more the prototypical. I'm a big believer, though, that I agree with you that sports are copycat. You know, when we first saw like the Wildcat in college football, then we see it in the pro. We even see it in the pro game now on occasion. It's a little wrinkle to a lot of playbooks. I mean, do you watch the Super Bowl? How much do the Eagles look like a college offense? I mean, Jalen Hurts was running every 3 plays. It seemed like he was getting out of the pocket and running on some kind of read option or design quarterback run. You know what I mean? And so. Yeah, it is definitely a copycat league. But my thing is, as both the NBA and the NFL get out towards the perimeter and play these more spread offenses, doesn't that leave the situation ripe for the old school classic, team that runs the ball up the middle in the I form to just dominate a weak, speedy defense? Doesn't that open up the NBA for the next Shaquille O'Neal to go down low and just dominate the boards and dominate the glass and score 40 a night in the paint? I mean, if you get a league full of 7-footers that can't defend the paint and all they do is shoot threes, and another Shaquille O'Neal comes along, good night. So I think that the coach who wins isn't the GM. The GM who wins, to answer your question, isn't the one that looks at the Warriors and says, I want the next Steph Curry. It's the one that looks at the Warriors and says, I want the anti-Warriors that can destroy that team on offense. That we can play in the post and just shred them on the boards and play 90s basketball and keep the score under 100 and dominate them.
So does that mean then, Alex, there's still hope for the future, like the next, maybe there will be another bad boys of the Detroit Pistons led by Isaiah and then Lambeer and John Sally, and maybe, well-loved where he played for sure. Does it leave hope for a future Charles Oakley to be the enforcer in the low post? It's like, no, you're not dunking on me, mister. So just better think about what you're doing.
I think it does, and I think the Detroit Pistons have proved it multiple times. I mean, they proved it in the Bad Boys era for sure, but that defensive play was more the calling at that time. They proved it again in the isolation era in 2004, and beat Shaq and Kobe in 5 games. I mean, they proved it multiple times that you can put together a team that's based on defense. Now, if you ask me though, does that 2004 team win today? No, because I don't think they shoot the three at a high enough level. I don't think they can keep pace on that front, and I don't think they were designed to lock down the perimeter as much as they were designed to lock down the isolation game, or the triangle. But at the same time, I think, that the situation is ripe both in the NFL, especially in college football. And to me, that's why you get schools like Michigan in the playoff. That's why you get schools like Michigan that can just run over Ohio State, because Ohio State is designed to go up against SEC schools. It's designed to go up against Pac-12 schools in a bowl game and score 80 points, and the defense has to compete with a wide open West Coast passing game, spread passing game. They're not designed to stop traditional two tight end I form offense that's just ground and pound. And that's why Michigan can run for over 200 yards on Ohio State every year now, because that front seven isn't designed to play like that. They're just not. And so it doesn't matter what Ryan Day or Jim Knowles do. That's just the situation they're in. And I think kudos go to the NFL team that figures that out first too, and kudos go to the NBA team that figures that out first too. You can only be. You're not going to get the next Steph Curry. Steph Curry is a one of a kind, transcendent type player. So you can draft Trae Young, but you still don't get Steph Curry out of it. You're more likely gonna beat them by playing opposite.
So, by the way, just before we wrap this up, so I'll just go back to your earlier point about, don't take your eyes off the Lakers and for sure not Golden State.
Yeah.
Let's say, there could be a matchup. There likely will be at some point, you would think. Denver Lakers, Denver Golden State. How nervous, for the obvious reasons, the ones you just point out, would the Nuggets be about those matchups, either one?
If I'm the Nuggets, I'm more nervous about the Warriors than the Lakers, but it's weird because I'm also more nervous about LeBron than I am Curry, if that makes sense. Because LeBron and we don't really know. It came out today actually that LeBron says he's going to need surgery at the end of the season. So that means a few things to me. That means one, he's rehabbed it to the point where the Lakers need wins right now, and that's why he's playing right now. They can't afford not to have him on the floor right now. He came off the bench last night. He's going to start soon. They can't afford not to have him right now. They got to have him to get into this play-in game. They got to have him for the playoffs. But if he can get right, and him and Anthony Davis, cross your fingers, can stay healthy for the 2 months of the playoffs, look out. They can go up against anyone, including Jokic, Ball, and the gang. But that said, the Warriors as a team, I think, are a greater threat to the Nuggets because Kerr is the new Popovich, where the offense is so much fun to watch. The ball moves so well. All these older guys, from the 80s and 90s and stuff from that era of basketball that say like, oh, I hate the way the game's played now. It's so ugly. No, it's not. It's beautiful. I could do with a few less threes being taken, but the amount of passing now compared to then, to me, the wide open passing offense is so much cooler than the isolation game. And I think the Warriors do it still better than anyone. So I think they're a greater threat to Denver than anybody else.
All right. So we're just about out of time. Hey, Alex Campbell, it's splendid to have you on anytime. Obviously, we'll have you on again real soon. Love listening to your conversations and your points of view on any sport and every sport.
I love being here.
Well, thank you, sir. We're honored to have you. And Jordan Laroche, our great producer, working in this case in Thailand. Who knows? Next week it might be the Antarctic or the Arctic.
Where in the world is Jordan Laroche?
Yeah, Jordan. Well, he's maybe God willing, get in the space program. He'll do it from the space station or something like that. Anyway, he's good at what he does, that's for sure. So thanks, Jordan, for producing and joining us on the show as well. Thanks to our great sponsors, of course, COSA, Ontario Standardbred Horse Racing Association of Ontario, and Nicky, the king of carpets. We were very blessed, Billy and I, to have these great sponsors. And speaking of Billy, he's off taking some time to mourn the loss of his mom, so we certainly hope to have him back next week. And again, send out our sympathies and condolences to Billy and his family. Always a tragic loss when there's a mom or a dad or whoever it is in the immediate family. It's they're all terrible. They're all tragic, and they're all a tough thing to go through for anybody, as many of you know. Okay, so with that in mind, folks, certainly to all of you, thank you so much for tuning us in. We're very grateful that you check us out either live on Facebook Live or during the week whenever you have time. Thank you for doing that. We very much appreciate it. So have yourselves a good week. God bless you and your families, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again next Monday night right here. Thank you and good night.